When I first started doing research on the land, I hardly knew anything. I really didn't know where to start. After speaking with the land company, who was handling all the affairs for the oil company, they gave me the land description of the property. Now that I had the land description, I was able to locate the exact location on Google Earth. From there, I had to start researching all the family members to see who it belonged to. With the help from my mother, she led me to the Dodge census cards found on this family search site. The Dodge cards were helpful in understanding who a person was, who was in their household at the time, and even who their parents and slave owners were. These cards were very informative. She had also mentioned from time to time that we were related to the Chickasaw Chief Edmund Pickens. So once I started the research on finding who the owner of the land was, it led me to doing research on the family. Doing research on Edmund Pickens was rather easy because I discovered he was a well-known figure in history relating to the Chickasaw Nation. It turns out Edmund Pickens was my great-great-great-grandfather. His father was John, a white man, and his mother Mary was Native American. His father had died right after his birth, so his mother's tribe had raised him. As he got older, he became a prominent figure within the Chickasaw Nation and was even the first elected Chickasaw chief. Once I found out that he was negotiating treaties with the United States government, I'm not going to lie, it kind of blew me away to think that I had a relative, a grandfather, who had that big of an impact on American history. Me having a great interest in history now, I'm really into the family research. And with the help of the internet and the Dodge records, I'm all in. By this, I was able to locate the owner of the land using the allotment records and did find it belonged to Bob Anderson, who was my great-great-great-grandfather. Like I stated in the last video, Bob had a daughter named Nanny, who was my great-great-grandmother, and Nanny married Grant Pickens. Grant's father was Jack Pickens, as is stated on the back of his Dodge card, and Jack's father was Edmund Pickens. You see, Edmund had some children by a slave woman, and Jack was one of them. A lot of people say Jack died young, but we found a document that stated he lived to be a very old man, so I'm believing for that to be the truth as it relates to Jack. Story of the family is that Edmund was a bounty hunter, and he used to take Jack along with him. The document that we found also says that he was raised by the Indians. Finding information on Jack Pickens, though, for some reason, was very hard. Most came from family knowledge. After being fascinated by Edmund's story, it led me to researching about Native American history of Oklahoma, then called Indian Territory. In our home, we had a picture of a woman who looked like a Native American. This lady turned out to be my great-great-grandmother, Emma Murray Stevenson. Emma Murray married Israel Stevenson. That's how she became a Stevenson. As I said before in the last video, Israel's father was George, whose father was Stephen, or they call him Steve. Steve's father was Hardy, who came to Indian Territory on the Trail of Tears from Mississippi. But now I'm still trying to find out, why does Emma Murray look like an Indian and how? Come to find out, her father was a man named Joe Murray, and her mother was named Mary Jane Elliott. Joe Murray was part Native American, and Mary Jane was a white woman. Joe and Mary Jane got married in 1871, lived in Texas in 1880 according to a census, and Emma Murray was born 1878, actually in Indian Territory at Caddo Creek in the Choctaw Nation. Joe Murray was a mysterious man, the way he moved around. The story is that he was kidnapped as a young boy and taken to Texas by a white family, and they raised him as their own child. Later, as a teen, he came back to Indian Territory to reunite with his family. His mother's name was Lucinda, who was a freedman, and his father was a Chickasaw citizen named Lutiki, as stated on the back of his Dodge census card. By now, I'm using Ancestry.com to gather information on the family. Through Ancestry, I got connected to a cousin on the Murray side of the family who had a lot of information on the Murrays. He told me he had seen Joe Murray's father on the 1837 census coming to Indian Territory from Mississippi. We ended up finding that information online. It was like striking gold. It said he was a full-blood Indian. Now that I have traced my heritage to a full-blood Indian, I thought about getting a CDIB card. So I applied, but I was denied. Although I didn't get the CDIB card, I realized I gained a massive amount of family knowledge that I could pass on to future generations. Maybe it wasn't all about the oil after all. Maybe this was God's plan. I feel like a very wealthy man on top of this mountain that I stand.
Staying straight blessed.
I got that blessing, it's the best, man. I can't be stressing, rolling with the S-man. I got that blessing, it's like a weapon. I can't be stressing, strapped with the vest, man. Staying strapped with the power on my side. You know it's a rugged road, but we had to ride. Staying in these trenches, still hopping fences, we still in